Ya, como vieron, creo que somos dos instituciones que podemos tener mucho en común. Obviamente hay mucho que nosotros ya realizamos acá, otras cosas que tendremos obviamente que colaborar y poder hacer junto con Rambam. El hecho es de que vamos a dar comienzo. Aaron, Erev Tov, Tov lirot אותך פה, וטוב שאתה איתנו, כבוד גדול שאתה איתנו, שאתה נמצא איתנו ושאתה תוכל לתת לנו הרצאה. אני יוצא מן הכלל, זה אני בטוח. אז בבקשה, הבימה שלך.
Well, good evening, everybody. First of all, happy birthday to the Medical Association of the ABC Hospital, and I'm here to celebrate it with you. And it's a little bit younger than I am, this organization, but it's forgivable. So, just to connect to the previous movie that you saw into the introduction, actually we are duo until this morning, and I was supposed to be here with Professor Mickey Halbertal, who is the director of the Rambam Hospital. He was supposed to tell you about the hospital. Mostly you have seen. I was supposed to tell you a little bit on the connection between the hospital and the Faculty of Medicine, about our work, about the future of medicine. Unfortunately, we were in Monterrey yesterday and visiting the Jewish community there, and we returned to our hotel almost quite late, and an hour or two later, Mickey was notified that his mother died, passed away, and he took an early flight to Mexico City and back via Madrid to Tel Aviv. So I'm not replacing him, but I just want to tell you about my own connection with the hospital, but let me try a little bit with, it will be kind of a mixed lecture what I'm going to give you. So I'm an Israeli, was born in Israel in 1947, a month before Israel was announced as an independent state by the United Nations. Actually, my ID card said that I was not born in Israel, I was born in British Palestine. It was part of the British Empire at that time. And they refused to change it, so okay, so I'm there. But I grew up in Haifa, I was born in Haifa, grew up in Haifa. My two parents came from Poland before the Holocaust. They came as children with their own parents, sensing anti-Semitism in the air. And went to elementary school, high school, and then I went to study medicine at the Hebrew University Hadassah Medical School in Jerusalem. At that time, in 1965, it was the only medical school in Israel. Now we have about 6 of them, but at that time it was the only medical school. Actually, it was established in 1948. A year after the country started, we already had a running medical school. And after graduating the medical school, I was drafted to the military. In Israel, there is a very elaborate system. You can either be drafted to the military at the age of 18, which is according to the law, or you can be drafted after you study, but you have to study something that the military is interested in. The military will not allow you to study Bible. Well, you can study Bible, but after the service. But if you are studying medicine, chemistry, computer sciences, aeronautical engineering, and so on, then the military will postpone your service, and then you are coming and serving in your profession. So I studied medicine, and then exactly in 1973, in the Yom Kippur War, I completed my medical studies, including my rotating internship in Rambam Hospital, and I was drafted to the military, becoming a combat physician in the Israeli Navy, the Israeli Commando, the missile boats, missile ships, and completed 3 years of national military service, and was discharged and decided that I'm a physician, so I have to do a residency, and I picked up residency in surgery. Out of all the professions, I picked up surgery, but and again in Rambam Hospital. But a short time into it, I realized that it's not exactly what I really want to do, and I became more interested in the root of diseases. As you all know, you're all belonging to the medical profession. In most of the cases, if you think of patients, they are coming to the hospital too late. If you have a myocardial infarction patient, it's much too late. He has been accumulating cholesterol in the coronary arteries for decades. The Americans did PMs on American soldiers that fought in the Korea War, 18 years, 19 years old soldiers. They did post-mortem operation, and they found already the beginning of accumulation of cholesterol in the coronary artery. If you get a cancer patient, when the cancer patient is already symptomatic, complains of something, pain, some neurological symptoms and so on, you diagnose it, it started much earlier on. And I somehow naively wanted to understand why people become sick at the very beginning. What is the root of the sickness? I must admit that in retrospect it was a foolish thinking. It was risky, kind of absurd type of a thinking, because once you are walking into the laboratory, you are working on something that is nitty-gritty, the corner of the corners of the corners. I mean, you're not working on diseases and you're not curing cancer, just forget about it. So, but nevertheless, you know, this was my idea, and I said goodbye to the chairman of surgery. I gave him a few weeks' note that I want to leave and to go to do research. Initially he said, oh, you're a good doctor, and I'll send you to the United States for fellowship. At that time, by the way, the most common surgical disease was peptic ulcer. That was the most common, and it was operated in many cases because patients were coming bleeding, and we operated on them until, of course, Helicobacter pylori was discovered, got the Nobel Prize to Australian physicians, and the disease changed its character altogether, because people thought that, you know, if you get ulcer, you must be a type A personality. There was all kinds of psychological theories attached to peptic ulcer, and it's all done, simple bacteria, 10 days of erythromycin, you are cured and everything is fine. A little bit oversimplified, but that's basically the story. It's amazing what science is doing. Anyway, I told him that I'm firm about leaving, and then he escalated the conversation and thought that maybe I need some help. He meant some psychological help, maybe I need some rest. And I said, no, I'm rock solid, I'm leaving. Find, you know, I give you 3 weeks, find a replacement, because I was on call on the list and so on. And I left and I went to the Technion in Haifa, which is a premier technological university, to do my PhD. And during my PhD with Avram Hershko, we discovered a very important system. I will not go into the details of the system, but I'll just show you the result of the system. What we discovered is a quality control system that controls the quality of proteins in the body. You know, we are made of 25,000 different proteins. Hemoglobin, for example, the antibodies that immunize us against COVID, the muscle proteins, 25,000 different proteins. And these proteins are very sensitive. They are sensitive to mutation, they are sensitive to heat. People don't realize, they think that it's hot outside, but it's not hot outside, it's hot inside. We are living in 37 centigrade, it's quite hot. And proteins hate it. You know, typically when you buy protein in the butcher, you don't think that you buy proteins, but you do buy a lot of proteins. When you buy meat, you buy proteins. When you buy milk, you buy proteins. When you buy cheese, you buy proteins. You put them in the refrigerator, or preferably for long time storage, you put them in the freezer. So, and we are not in the freezer, we are living at 37 degrees, so proteins are getting damaged, they are getting harmed, they misfolded. You know, try to put a piece of meat on the table for one day and you'll see what happens to it. But you never think of what happens to our meat. Yeah, we have meat, our muscles are made of, it's meat. We don't think cannibalistic, but we are made of meat, for example, and how comes that at 37 degrees our meat can exist not for one day, and not for 1 month, and not for 1 year, and not for decades, but for several good decades, 7, 8, 9, 10 decades. Why? Our meat is also damaged and also harmed. There is no exception in the rules of nature. But we have a system that replaces the damaged proteins all the time. So it's kind of a surveillance system, a quality control system, that removes damaged proteins that are being generated all the time as I speak now to all of you. And it's not only in people, it's in all animals, in all plants, in all known organisms. A very sophisticated quality control people that we initially hypothesized, but then isolated physically using scientific biochemical tools. And initially, you know, like every breakthrough, people are kind of disbelieving, and scientists are also very conservative. We encountered loss of disbelief, but you know, you take, that's what you do in science, you do what you feel is appropriate to do. And gradually, the discovery was made in the late 70s and early 80s. It took us about 6 years to put the system together. After 6 years, when I graduated, I got my PhD from the Technion. I decided to fly out because I wanted to build my own independence. And I went for another 5 years to the MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I got further training in biology, actually working on the same system, but took it much further than as a graduate student. I took it to genetics, to molecular manipulation. And after 5 years, after a heavy discussion in the family and after many offers in the United States from premier institutions, I decided to go back. And I am next to Rambam Hospital, actually the Faculty of Medicine. You can see it here. You can see this is the white building. The Rambam Hospital is here. It's a huge complex. And the Faculty of Medicine is always next to hospitals because we are teaching medical students, they have to see patients. And also it's going both ways. It's not only that we are teaching medical students, but we are absorbing physicians that are doing research. So I have in my lab physicians that are carrying on basic research, and we have a very good, I don't know whether you have it here in Mexico, we have an excellent MD PhD program. So the students are coming for 12 years, and they are graduating with 2 doctorates simultaneously, which I couldn't do at the time. I did an MD, and then I did my PhD, but now we have it combined, and they can do it, all the physicians, they can do it wherever they want. They can do it in biology, but they can do it in computer sciences, they can do it, we have computer scientists and mathematicians that are doing degrees in medicine. So we are opening the whole technion for physicians to do whatever they want. And our actually 20% or 25% of our graduates are graduating with a double degree. And fortunately or unfortunately, they are not becoming clinical practicing physicians. Many of them, they go to work in the biomedical industry, they go to work in Philips, in Elsint, in Siemens, all the industries that are surrounding Rambam Hospital. And Rambam Hospital is a beta site for all this industry that is surrounding us. Actually, it's built in the middle, and in the entrance, in the southern entrance to Haifa, you will see all the General Electric, Siemens, Philips, beside the Israeli industry that are developing medical sophisticated imaging, surgical equipment, and so on and so forth. So I returned to Israel and became a faculty member, and I'm there until this very day. I have a very big laboratory, and so on and so forth. So my connection to Rambam is very tight, though Rambam and the Technion are 2 different entities formally. Rambam belongs to the government, to the Ministry of Health. The Technion belongs to the Ministry of Education, to the High Educational Council. But that's formality. We are basically tied up like Siamese brothers. I mean, we are one unit, and the intention was that Mickey will present to the hospital, I will present to the research, but it happened so that Mickey is not here, so that's basically our story. So let's go very quickly to what we did and how the future of medicine looks like in my eyes. And so the quality control, what happens if the quality control doesn't work? Proteins that should be removed are not removed. One big group of proteins that are being accumulated and not removed are oncoproteins, like NIC and RAS and JUN and FOS and P53 mutated, and so on and so forth. The system fails to identify them, they accumulate, and they start to drive the malignant process. And as a result of this discovery that all these proteins are targeted by the system that we discovered, drugs were developed, very efficient drugs, and there is no doubt in my mind that this hospital, and basically all I've seen much worse hospitals than this one. This is a superb, premier leading hospital. I've been in faraway China, in small cities in China, and I found our drugs on the shelf are being used mostly for multiple myeloma, which is a B-cell leukemia, but also for amyloidosis and so on and so forth. One of the drugs is Velcade. It's a proteasome, it's one inhibitor of the whole system, and it leads to apoptosis of malignant cells. And I'll show you just one picture. Here you have a patient with multiple myeloma. You see the stampeding level of the IgA. In this case, it's immunoglobulin A. It's a monoclonal expansion of a B cell that occupies the entire space of the bone marrow. All the other elements of the bone marrow are suppressed. Red blood cells, thrombocytes, white blood cells. The patients are suffering from pathological fractures, from hypoxia, from infections, from occlusion of the kidney by the accumulating level of the antibody. And here start a treatment, conventional treatment that people used before. Nevertheless, the relapse is very short. It's not even a complete remission, and patient relapses, and here start, our treatment, and it's not our treatment, the treatment that is based on our discovery, and the patient is running into complete remission. There are another group, and you can see here the bone marrow, the malignant bone marrow. You can see the 41% tumor burden in the bone marrow of the patient, and after treatment, this is a single therapy, by the way, which is not typical to cancer, to malignancies. You can see basically rejuvenation of all the blood cells in the bone marrow. What happened with this disease, that it's a very common disease, it's 20% of all hematological malignancies and 3% of all malignancies, is that it changed completely its clinical landscape, and people from dying in agony a year and a half into the diagnosis are now living. Some of them are cured completely, many of them are living 10 and 15 years, but they are not only living, they are living with high quality of life. I will not go into other drugs that are being developed. I think that the pharma, I don't know any major pharma company that is not busy with our systems. There is a whole new group that are called products. Actually, thalidomide, the very famous thalidomide is an excellent drug that was taken out of the vault and being used again, and derivatives of it. And now the pharma companies are moving to brain diseases. Because brain diseases is another group of diseases that are showing up once the system doesn't function properly. Think about Alzheimer with accumulation of tau, think about Parkinson with accumulation of alpha-synuclein, think about ALS with accumulation of SOD or TDP43, think about Huntington with basically all the neurodegenerative diseases, with no exception, have one common hallmark: accumulation of aggregated proteins that damage the neurons, and it depends on the protein and the site of the brain, the symptoms, but there is a common hallmark to all these diseases, and the issue is to target this protein for degradation, and now new drugs are being developed, and I think that the future is going to see a huge development in neurodegeneration beside cancer. So for me, as a physician, it was satisfactory and rewarding, because physicians are typically, when I was a doctor in the hospital, you are treating patients one by one by one by one. If you're in the operating theater and you have a major operation like Whipple, like for pancreatic cancer, it can take you 10 hours. So you're treating one patient a day, or 2 or 3 or 5 a day. And I was lucky enough to somehow materialize my old dream to understand mechanisms of diseases and to be able to develop drugs for diseases. And now in the lab, we have a very efficient anti-cancer drug. We are very close to clinical trials, completely different concept. I don't have the time to go into it. So it's rewarding to see. Again, you need to be very lucky. People are asking me, what is the story, what is the secret of success? I tell them that the first element is luck. Be with the right people at the right time. The stars should turn to the right direction. Our work has impacted the lives of millions and will continue to impact the lives of millions, including in this very hospital. I'm sure that if I would have asked you to take me to the hemato-oncology department, you would have seen the doctor saying, here are Valkade, carfilzomib, bortezomib, and so on and so forth, the drugs that were developed. And that's, I think, for a physician is very satisfactory. So let me leave this one and go to the other part of my talk, which is the future of medicine. And you all know about it. I'm not going to talk about it in details, but we all know that we are in the center of a big revolution. And the big revolution is the revolution of personalized medicine. So what is personalized medicine? That we are not, I always compare it to pajama type of medicine versus tailor-made suit. What is pajama? Pajama is something that we are not going to a very sophisticated fashion store to buy, because it's for the night, we are covering ourselves with a blanket. There are basically 3 sizes, small, medium, and large. The rubber band in the middle can take care of the rest of the sizes. And we are moving away from one size fits all to a tailored medicine. And the tailored medicine is based on, again, on science and technology. And the science and technology is basically the discovery of the DNA. So we are able now to, it's not only DNA, I'm oversimplifying it, but it's what is the reason of the disease, because cancer is mutational disease. Many diseases are changes in our genetic repertoire. Some of this we are bringing from home. Some of this we are acquiring along life, climate, irradiation, air pollution, whatever we are acquiring, and we are able today to analyze the base of the disease and accordingly to module the protein that is mutated and then to use sophisticated computational chemistry in order to find either agonist or antagonist to this mutation. So we are basically widening in a big way the base of medicine. So until now, let's go very quickly because you all know what's going on. By the way, this is very interesting. You know, the dream of people is to live forever and at the same time to remain young and healthy forever. You know, you're thinking about it, there is something into it, not to the will of people, but to the ability of science and technology to extend our life, but along with problems that are coming with it. So now, you know, 120 years ago, people were living about 50 years. Women died during delivery. There was no blood transfusion. We didn't know anything about AB, O, plus, minus. We didn't know anything about anesthesia. There was no X-ray. Actually, the first Nobel Prize that was awarded in 1901 was given to Konrad Wilhelm Röntgen for discovering the X-ray, the Röntgen. And then came, for 8 years we were living with Röntgen. I myself was trained on X-ray, on mobile. And then came the CAT scan, and then the MRI, and then the functional MRI. And now we are doing very sophisticated imaging. Actually, we are not doing only imaging for imaging, we are doing interventional imaging. Think about cardiology. You know, basically all the cardiac surgeons almost were thrown out of jobs by interventional cardiology. The same for gastroenterology, the same for operation. Think about the Da Vinci. I'm sure that your operation theaters are full with Da Vincis. So think about, you know, on technologies of what's going on there. So we are moving very, very fast to very different medicine, and with this medicine we are able to extend our life by 35 years. We are living now 85 years on the average in the developed countries. So we added like 35, 40 years, we almost doubled our lifetime within 1 century. If we think about the old Romans and Greeks, they lived 4,000 years ago, they lived 35 years or so. So it took 4,000 years to add 10, 15 years, and now, within 1 century, another 40 years or 35 years. The question is whether it's going to continue. No, it's not going to continue. It's going to continue slowly. We are going to flatten out at around 110. That's the prediction. We don't know yet because we look at the curve. Actually, the United States is going down because of COVID, because of violence, shooting, road accidents, and so on and so forth. Big America is going down. But in general, we are climbing up, but we are climbing up with problems. We are climbing up with retirement. We are climbing up with people that are all of a sudden find themselves without income or without decent income. We are climbing up in diseases. Basically, if you look at this hospital is all treating, except for pediatric medicine, which is a little bit side medicine, all treating age-related diseases. I think cancer is a bona fide age-related disease. You know, most of the cancer patients, I'm the president of the Israel Cancer Society, are, you know, it's climbing with age. Cardiovascular disease, all the vascular diseases are age-related diseases. Brain diseases are all, these are the 3 main killers. So think about it, we created these diseases by extending lifespan. Actually, 100 years ago, people didn't die of Alzheimer's, they didn't die of myocardial infarction, and they didn't die of cancer because they didn't live long enough to get all these diseases. So the result of the science and technology, yes, we are living longer, but yes, we are also generating problems and we have to deal with it. Not that anybody would have given up living long. I mean, forget about it. Everybody clings to life with fingers on slippery walls. But nevertheless, that's the fact. And you know, we don't think about medicine globally, but that's what we are doing. So, but personalized medicine is going to take us further, and I will not go into it, but I will not go into the history, but actually it's going to be personalized because instead of jumping on the patient with the tumor and taking the tumor away and jumping and attacking him with chemotherapy, and we are going to first analyze what is going on behind the disease. If we are going to sequence the DNA, we might be able to predict the disease in the future. If I have a mutation in P53, it's a risky mutation, so I might be more careful. If I have other mutations, in the future we might be able to repair them by CRISPR-Cas, for example, by gene editing. So we can predict, we can prevent, but mostly, and that's what I'm going to talk about again, all that, I'm trying just to give it to you kind of a shelter, kind of a cover, participatory. When I studied medicine, and probably many of you when studied medicine, the doctor was God. We didn't talk to the patients at all. We said, I'm your doctor, trust me, don't come with your stupid questions, do what I'm telling you to do, and that's it. That was the attitude. Actually, I was telling the joke yesterday in Monterrey, that there is a joke about the difference between God and a doctor and a physician, that God doesn't think that he's a physician. But the attitude changed completely. There is the internet now, the patients are much more knowledgeable, there are groups of patients, they know exactly what's going on, they consult one another, and also the juridical system came in, there are lawsuits against doctors and so on, so the doctor took a side step, and the doctor is now more a professional consultant. So that's what we are doing basically, and the patient must participate. Patients are very different in their knowledge, in their background, in their culture, in their religion, in their beliefs. They are very different from one another, but nevertheless the patient has the responsibility to participate in the decision on his or her own fate. We can consult, but we cannot order, we cannot say do it, and so on and so forth. And the patient takes much more responsibility because the decisions are going to be much more complex, because the medical procedures are much more complex. We can transplant heart today. We can transplant heart and lung. We can do a lot of things that we didn't do before, and therefore the decision, and it's risky procedures. So the patient has to take a part in the decision-making process. Of course, personalized medicine came from the observation that if you are starting with a group of patients, on one day, let's say that you are seeing 10 prostate cancer patients, and they're all colored, but we are blind to see the color, they are ending up after 5 years or 10 years in different fates. Some die because we couldn't analyze, we couldn't diagnose the metastasis. Let's say that one cell was already seated in the bone, in the vertebrae, and we couldn't diagnose it. And some are cured. And personalized medicine is there in order to prevent this phenomenon, to be able to predict the most efficient treatment and the prognosis a priori when the patient's already showing up, and not to say to the patient, let's wait and see 5 years whether you are making it through or you are not making it through. And of course we are very different. So patients are not mice in the lab. We are men and women, we are fat and thin, we are tall and low, we are eating Mexican diet and high-fat diet, I don't know where. We are bringing different genetic repertoire from home, from our parents. We are very different from one another. If you think about it, out of the 8 billion people that live on this planet, not 2 are identical. Not 2, even not identical twins. Because identical twins start to divert epigenetically once they are out of the uterus. So not 2 people that walk on the face of Earth. So why should they have the same disease? Of course the disease is very different from one another, and many ethical issues are coming up, and that's what I want to talk about a little bit and to conclude. Of course, the whole story started with this couple, with Watson and Crick. They discovered in '53 the structure of the double helix, and when I look at, you might joke about it, you think, oh, Nobel, I'm always kind of cynical about it. People think that Nobel Prize laureates know everything. They ask me about Beethoven, and they ask me what do I think about the elections in Mexico, and what do I think about that, and what do I think about that. We are people. We are people. But even in the Nobel Prize, I remember very well this conversation. After we got the announcement from Sweden, I got a call from 2 Nobel laureates in Texas. They are friends of mine, both Jews, Mike Brown and Joe Goldstein. They discovered the cholesterol story and so on, which led to the development of statins and the cholesterol-lowering drug. And they said to me, Aaron, you are still fresh to this, and you are probably shocked. But along the way, you will find out that the class of Nobel laureate, we always call it the class of 2025 in university or in high school, is not different than any other class that you have been to during your lifetime, from kindergarten all the way to elementary school, high school, and university. On the very right side, they are the most brilliant one. In the middle, they are the majority, and on the left side, there are some that somehow got it. Let's don't allude on that further. But I can tell you that in my opinion, in biology at least, and not in physics of course, the most important Nobel Prize is this one. Because the whole entire genetics and medicine is standing on the foundation of understanding the structure of the DNA and then what we call the central dogma of biology. From DNA to RNA to proteins, all the mutations, all the new drugs are all based on this. So these people belong to the very right side of this Gaussian curve. So you see that the drugs of the future are going to be based on our DNA, and we are moving, as I said, from pajama type, from one size fits all to tailor-made medicine. And I will not go into it. You all know breast cancer can be due to mutation in the progesterone receptor, in the estrogen receptor, in the EGF receptor. Then unfortunately it can be triple negative, but it will not be only triple negative because we are discovering more and more reasons. It might be deca negative, or I don't know more than deca in Latin, but it's triple now because we know only 3 reasons, and then the 4th one is called triple negative, but it will be more than triple. So this is an example that we need. The woman comes with a tumor. The woman doesn't know what's going on, but if she has a mutation in the estrogen receptor, we should treat her with tamoxifen. If she has a mutation in the EGF receptor, we should treat her with Herceptin. But if we cross the treatment, they will continue to deteriorate. So that's personalized medicine. We are going to molecular diagnosis. The pathologist's eye and the hematoxylin eosin slides are not sufficient anymore. They are far away from providing us with the right information. But let's go quickly to the issues, to the moral issues. In medical school, we are learning that the 3 pillars of medicine are disease, patient, and treatment. And these definitions on which I was educated are going to change dramatically, because the disease used to be what you see on the left side. The doctor came, he took the pulse, and the patient was boiling. Today, we are doing DNA analysis. We don't even need the patient. We are taking biomarkers, we are taking the blood, and in most cases, we need the story, of course, and so on and so forth, but basically, we have much better tools. But the disease can be diagnosed much earlier. I think that I am healthy, but I don't know whether I have a small, tiny tumor that already sent circulating DNA or circulating tumor cells into my blood. Think about it. Newly developed blood tests can detect cancer 4 years before conventional methods. So if I screen the population, I might be able to discover cancer patients that don't know even that in 5 years they are going to have the disease, the symptomatic disease. Again, go back to my dream of what I wanted as a kid, as a young student, to achieve. And then there is a lot of ethical meaning to it. What does it mean that I'm sick now, that I have cancer? Whether the insurance company will cover it, what does it mean for the family? Think about, I'm suffering chest pain. I'm in my lab, I'm suffering chest pain, I cross the yard, I'm going to the emergency room, they do an ECG, they take enzymes and everything, and they take blood tests for sequencing, and they tell me, Aaron, you don't have heart attack, it was just intercostal muscle pain, but you do have APO4E, which is mutated. You have this variant that predicts in high susceptibility Alzheimer's disease in 10 years. Jesus Christ, I came for chest pain, and I walked out with Alzheimer's disease. And then what do you do with Alzheimer's disease? Do you go to your wife and tell her that? Do you go to your children that might carry the same gene? Do you go to your employer that might fire you, private employer? Do you go to your insurance agents that may revoke your insurance policy because, it's renewed every year? So for 50 years I paid insurance, now, and I didn't need them. Now that I need them, they walk out. So there are many implications to knowing what we read. Basically, I don't know whether we want to know our future. I think that the power of medicine nowadays, if we want to really narrow it down, is the prophecy. We are developing tools that are predictive for the future. And very few of us are ready for it. Psychologically, emotionally, historically, religiously, traditionally, however you look at it, we are not ready for it. We are enjoying, tomorrow night, I'm taking Iberia plane to Madrid and then to Tel Aviv. Planes crashing. But I don't know about it, so the statistics say that it's safe, you take it, but people get killed. You know, people get killed on the road, when they go out in the morning they go to work, and they don't come back at home to the night, you know it. So, not knowing the future is one of our strongest protective walls. And medicine is going to break it, to have the ability to break it. And I think that this is the essence. Forget about pricing, forget about knowledge, they're all important, but for society at large, this is going to be a very big issue. And I think that the big issue, and of course the patient. You know, the patient doesn't have to be patient that come with the pain. It can be the sperm, it can be the egg. We can predict diseases a priori, maybe try them. We are doing it. Actually, we are doing embryo selections nowadays. No, just last week, the Supreme Court of Alabama ruled out that frozen fertilized eggs are living organisms. And that had immediate implications on IVF, on abortions, on anything, just a decision of the court. But I think it's going to be ruled out by the Supreme Court of the United States, but one never knows. So see what's going on. This can be the next patient. Why not to do it ahead of time? Why we have to wait that the patient will walk into the emergency room with a stroke or with a myocardial infarction or with a tumor that cannot be cured? And of course the treatment. The treatment can be correcting the DNA, gene editing. We are doing it today. For sickle cell anemia, for thalassemia, it's already running. The price is skyrocketing, but we know how to do it. So the treatment is not going to be, the usual treatment, but we are going to really treat the disease. And the accessibility and the price are other ethical issues that I don't want to go into. And I think that, there is an issue of genetic privacy, because if my DNA is going to be sequenced, it will be hacked. There is no doubt. It will be hijacked by criminals. There will be ransom. If there is all the time competition. Israel is very strong at it, at cybersecurity, but it's going always to be broken. You protect this line, the next day it's broken. You develop another line of defense. It's broken forever, and it's an ongoing forever competition between the criminals and the information. This information is very sensitive. If I have genes for autism, for psychiatric diseases, and they are the people that will call me say we are going to leak it out to put it in the computer on the internet. It's not fun. It's not fun at all, and it will happen. And all this is not coming from the Time magazine. It's all coming from Nature and Science, and we all know about it. And let's conclude with this beautiful lady, with Angelina Jolie. That men think that she is one of the most beautiful women that walks on the face of earth. But she did something that is going much deeper than beauty. And she discovered that she's carrying BRCA1. Why has she discovered it? Because her mother died of breast cancer, and her aunt, the sister of the mother, died of ovarian cancer, and of course the common denominator is BRCA1, and she tested positive, and she did decide to take her 2 breasts and her 2 ovaries. And again, the same questions are coming up. What to tell the children? By the way, she has her own children, not only the one that she adopted with Brad Pitt. And then what to do about the insurance and all these issues are coming up. So for herself, she did remove a ticking bomb, but I think that what she really, and she made it public in order to encourage women, and I just want to tell you, again, we are going to the issue of public knowledge and what does it mean. In America, people, there was a huge flux of women going to be tested. In Israel, nobody. Nothing. Why? Because people say, we are religious, we trust in God. With God's help, in Yiddish, as they say. Why should we be tested? God will be with us to help. So you see how traditional and cultural differences determine a public health problem, a bona fide public health problem. So it's going to be it might be easy in the lab, but it's going to be much more difficult, to apply it to population. It will require a lot of campaigns of psychologists, sociologists, clergymen, legislators, and so on in order to convince the public. And convincing the public is a major task. Think about vaccination hesitancy in the United States. People didn't want to get vaccinated, especially the black population, because they simply don't trust the government. They say this government that discriminates us in Alabama and in Mississippi, that don't give us jobs, now want to vaccinate us and to make us crazy or what. So they don't trust the government. So the trust You know, when we are talking public health, we are talking basically contract between government and population, and the same is true for vaccination, the same is true for prevention, for screening, for modern medicine. So all I wanted is basically, I think that you all knew about what I told you, but I thought that to kind of pack it in a more personal, concentrated way. So it's nice being here, and thank you very much for your attention.
אני לא רוצה להגיד את זה, voy a decir unas cuantas palabras en hebreo para agradecerle y se las traduzco. אני באמת מאוד מאוד נהניתי מההרצאה שלך, באמת זה רפואה מהפכנית, שבאמת אנחנו עוד לא יודעים על מה אנחנו הולכים הלאה, ¿ok? Le estoy diciendo que es una medicina realmente revolucionaria, en donde realmente ha tocado temas que realmente estamos apenas por empezar a ver cómo se está cambiando la medicina y hacia dónde vamos, y cómo ha tocado en ciertos lugares o ciertas situaciones en las que estamos apenas tratando de empezar y entender la medicina. אני רוצה לתת לך מתנה קטנה מבית החולים של ABC, גם של בית החולים וגם שלנו, על ההרצאה הנפלאה שנתת לנו. Le voy a dar un pequeño presente por parte del hospital y por parte de la Asociación Médica a una tan linda conferencia que nos ha dado en este momento. Rubén, por favor.
Rambam quiere reconocer el esfuerzo que ha hecho el Centro Médico ABC y el personal SABER y para el Centro Médico ABC, una quita o el director que pasa, una quita pasa, la cortas. También. We have a surprise. Ruben, you're not going to escape. This Mickey was supposed to give you, but this is from the Rambam Hospital. You, for all the wonderful work that you are doing for us, for them. It's wonderful to have such partners and friends. Far away geographically, but very close heartfully. Thank you very much.
Rubén, ahora sí. No. Estás más, tú estás medio. Por ahí. Uno más aquí. Gracias.
Quisiera hacer alguna pregunta o algún comentario. El profesor Ciechanover está dispuesto a contestar sus preguntas.